Pluto, Mickey Mouse's pet dog, and one of his best buds. As part of the core cast, or the Sensational Six as they're often referred to, he's one of the most popular Disney characters. What makes him unique from the rest of the crew, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Goofy, or even Pete or Chip and Dale, is that he's much more like an animal. He has very few anthropomorphic qualities. He makes funny faces and occasionally does a little dance, but that's about it. This has resulted in many questions from fans, with one of the most popular being, how can Goofy walk on two legs and talk, but Pluto can't? Well, he's never been able to walk upright like you or me or Goofy. What if I told you that Pluto actually used to speak? In his early days, when the company was still feeling out the character, Pluto's voice existed in a few different forms, and in this video, we'll be checking out every instance in which Pluto spoke. First, we'll need a little bit of the character's history. Pluto's first appearance is considered to be 1930's The Chain Gang. In this cartoon, we see two well-animated bloodhounds that sniff and bark directly at the viewer. They're unnamed and don't look a whole lot like Pluto, but one can definitely see the vision, and of course they've been referred to by people within Disney as the prototype for the character we all know and love today. Two Mickey cartoons later, we were introduced to Minnie's pet dog, Rover. Here we can really see him start to come through. Looking back, we can clearly put together who this is going to become, and might even go so far as to say it's him already. Anyway, another 5 or so Mickey cartoons after that, we arrive at 1931's The Moose Hunt. This is, according to the Disney Company and Disney scholars, Pluto's third film appearance. It's the first time we can call him Pluto, and that we see him as Mickey's pet. It's also the first time he talks. He speaks 3 times in the film, all of them for gags as opposed to being conversational. Pluto's most iconic speaking line, the infamous "kiss me," is actually the second thing he says, sandwiched between the 2 other instances of the episode.
Kiss me.
Friends that I've shown or who are just aware of this dialogue typically say that it freaks them out or makes them really uncomfortable. The voice you heard belongs to Pinto Colvig, who originally joined Disney as a writer and perhaps a hopeful animator. He ended up voicing Pluto, as in the barks and growls and other animal sounds, before eventually cementing his legendary legacy as the voice of Goofy, and also of Grumpy and Sleepy in Snow White. You may encounter some sources that say that "kiss me" are the first words that Pluto ever spoke, but I'm telling you that they're his second speaking instance. So what's going on here? Well, let me give it to you straight. The first thing Pluto ever said, occurring a whole minute before the next, was this. Yep, Pluto's first ever line of dialogue was part of a racist joke. The reason that this is hardly encountered or known about today is because, several decades after the short's creation, Disney decided that an easy-to-find racist past was not in their best interest, and thus dubbed over the line with a regular bark. Anyway, due to the sheer shock of Pluto's voice and manner when he asked Mickey to kiss him, his last speaking moment is pretty overlooked and disregarded. And it's a shame, because it's hilarious, and probably the best one. After the Moose Hunt, there's one other cartoon in which Pluto truthfully speaks. A little over a month after we saw the moose, we were given Mickey Steps Out. The plot isn't important, because Pluto's only line is at the very end. Unfortunately, his voice goes out the way it came in. Despite sounding pretty different, as far as I could tell, this voice is still provided by Pinto Colvig. Anyway, as you could tell, the video is not over. That's because, despite the aforementioned instance being what I would call the last time our favorite doggy truly spoke, further experimentation was still done. This next entry takes us 4 years into the future, to 1935. By now, all of the main cast except for Daisy were pretty firmly established in terms of their characters. This is what makes Mickey's Kangaroo such a bombshell. Besides being the final classic Mickey short to be made in black and white, it marks the first, last, and only time that we hear Pluto's thoughts. The plot this time is that Mickey is sent a kangaroo from his friend in Australia, a kangaroo that boxes and has a joey. These new pets make Pluto jealous, of course, and thus we hear his anger and scheming as Mickey playfully gets in the ring with the mother. We get a lot of exaggerated, memeable faces in this one as Pluto mugs the camera and snickers at his own dastardly ideas. I won't show everything we hear Pluto think, since there's actually a lot of them and I don't want to get copyrighted, but here are a few of my favorites.
The nerve of that grasshopper. Busting up my house. I'll get rid of the little guy first.
He thinks I'm his mother.
This time, Pluto was brought to life by Dan Brody, a prolific yet little-known actor. He apparently appeared in over 250 films, but other than Pinocchio, where he's apparently one of the voices at Pleasure Island, I wasn't familiar with any of his films. Since that cartoon, things have been smooth sailing in terms of Pluto's character. There haven't been any more hiccups or trials or tests as far as I know. With Mickey's kangaroo behind him, Pluto has remained Mickey's loving and loyal pet, and the only member of the main cast who cannot speak or walk upright. Looking at what Pluto's about, his personality and usual antics, his relationships with the other characters, and his typical roles in animated media, I'd say it fits his character better to not talk. But also that these experiments are still fun and an interesting part of the character's history. We absolutely could have done without the racism, but we can look at it today nearly a century later to measure just how far we've come. We can also use it to spark discussions on how far we still need to go, and as a reminder that we cannot move backwards or stay stagnant. And that's the end of the video, folks. Before I sign off, I'll leave you with this one last clip. I think that this counts as a vocalization, and therefore it could be argued that this is the last thing Pluto ever said. However, several people I've shown it to don't agree. So I'd like your thoughts. This is from 1943's Pluto and the Armadillo.
Huh?